All right, good morning. It's the Rise and Grind Morning Show. It is 8:07. I'm late. I know. It is also September 12th, and we are on to the Tampa Bay Bucs. Your Detroit Lions have another big matchup this weekend. One of only four teams to take on the both of their playoff matchups. One of five teams now to take on both of their playoff matchups from the season before to start the season. And all of those teams that did that prior to the Detroit Lions made or won the Super Bowl. Kind of a very unique statistic out there. Don't know that I'll spend a whole lot of time talking about that this morning, but we do have a little bit of time to talk about offense and defense, injury reports, and kind of what we're seeing headed into this weekend. It is going to be a fiery matchup. I guarantee it. Third time could be the charm for Tampa Bay. I hope not. The Lions took them down twice last season, but Tampa Bay is definitely on a roll right now. Very tough team. We cannot forget just about how good some of these players are that play for the Bucs. And then tonight, I'll be joined by the Cannon Fire podcast. We're going to be talking about their team, the Tampa Bay Bucs, and of course the Detroit Lions and how they feel this weekend should match up. Of course, I'm sticking with my Lions all the way. But Eric, good morning. How you doing this morning? Let me guess. Fantastic. All right.
As always, man. And it's my fault I had Will talking. That's why we're late.
I would have been late regardless this morning. It's a tough morning today. It is tough. Man, we got such a big matchup this weekend. Tampa Bay, kind of came out of nowhere, but everybody doubted Baker Mayfield last year. And I might have been one of the only ones, that wasn't a fan of the team that said, don't discount this guy. Like, this kid can play. And he has got, I'd say, as much tenacity as any quarterback in the league. He's a gritty, grind him out kind of guy. And you saw that week one. You're going to see it, if you go watch all the games from last year, you'll see it in every game. You can never count out Baker Mayfield, especially late in the games. I know he tends to make some mistakes, and he's going to have an opportunity to make some mistakes against one of his former cornerbacks, Carlton Davis. We'll talk about that this morning. Pressure cooker. What does pressure really mean? I want to put this to rest. I think I want to discuss and kind of go over all of the different vehicles of pressure and what it really means in the NFL. Kyle Peko was saved and signed. The Bucs O-line versus Hutch. Is this a problem? Is it a problem for Tampa? Or is it a problem for Hutch? We'll find out on Sunday. Injury report. We got a few guys now. I was supposed to put out an injury report yesterday. I was on live for, 4 or 5 hours yesterday, so I didn't get a chance to do it. But we'll get to that today. And then the Lions defensive ranks and stats. If we have enough time, we're going to get to that. And then, of course, some of the keys to the game. And we're going to do all that and more when we come back after this ad from our sponsor.
Every day, thousands of people are discovering Uper Lights, Michigan's newest, funnest rock to go find on the shores of the Great Lakes. Don't go out with just any light. Try the Convoy C8 from uperlights.com. It's guaranteed for life, and you'll find all the ones everyone else misses. Quality UV lights that are perfect for Uper Lights with prices starting as low as $20. Please make sure to visit uperlights.com for all your UV flashlight needs with the best guarantees on the market. Just what you wanted and not what you didn't. The best quality, the best guarantees, and the best UV flashlights from uperlights.com.
All right, and we're back. Let me get my screen set up here. I'm having a little difficulty with screens this morning. Does not want to behave. Eric, do us a favor. Welcome everybody into the chat, if you would, this morning. Who's riding with us today?
Sure. So who we got today? We got a pretty good crew. 46 in so far. Let's see who we had. We had me in the very beginning. And then let's go Lions. Michael Garrity. What's up, Michael Garrity? So do you think it's going to be black or blue this weekend? That's what Michael Garrity wants to know. The Lions put out a picture that said a blackout is coming. So, hey, I don't know when it's coming, if it's going to come this week or if it's going to come week 4 versus the Seahawks, but it's coming soon. Then we got Mark Garcia. We got Rick, Randy P, Bruce MacArthur. Wayne Rogers, Ryan Van Valkenburg, Cake Man 1218, Peter Van Larhoven, Mike P, Dennis Tidick, Jay-Z, Bruce Morton, Bo Booth. Oh, let's see. Casey in the house, King SJ, Bill Collier, and Trace as always. And that's a pretty good crew. Lots of people in the chat chatting it up. So you guys let us know what do you guys want us to answer this morning, and we're going to go over some stuff with the Bucs.
So Ryan Van Valkenburg, I'm with you there. I don't think that they're going to do a blackout in a non-primetime game. Yeah. I really think that they're going to save it for probably Calvin Johnson's night.
Yeah.
I think that's when we'll first, because we can only wear the alternates, 3 times a year?
2 times and then a third time in the playoffs. I believe.
So I think it'll be on the first Monday night there, or the Seattle game. Shout out DLR Van Halen says, good morning, Will. I don't always get to hear every minute of the show. Are you still disappointed in Hutch's performance after watching the All 22? So, I mean, there's ebbs and flows to his game, right? And I'll talk about some of that this morning. He didn't get home until, the last snap of the game. He didn't get to the quarterback. And when you have a depleted, I'm kind of giving away my segment. Let me come back to this. Let me come back to this one, because am I disappointed? No, I'm not disappointed in Hutch at all. But I do want to be fair to what pressures are and how they affect the game, and what pressure means to me. Now, this will be my opinion, but I'm also taking the facts from the NFL website, the analytics website that kind of tells you what everything is, gives you some explanations. So I'm going to roll through that, and then I'll give you my opinions on how I see pressure affecting the game, good or bad. Because honestly, pressure can be bad at times. Believe it or not, it can be bad at times. And I'll explain why last season pressure was bad. This season, we're hoping that pressure is going to be good. And I think you can probably deduce what I'm talking about here. Think about what was the worst situation we had last season on the defense, and how could pressure make that bad? And I'll get into that here in just a moment. So I'm gonna leave a little cliffhanger for you guys, let you guys think about it this morning. So Next Gen Stats, okay, Next Gen Stats comes out with all these different stats. PFF comes out with all these different stats and narrative, driven stats. But Next Gen is really the site that wanted to quantify pressure and what pressure really meant. And since 2017, when they started to partner with the NFL, Next Gen Stats Group and Amazon Web Services have been aiming to push the boundaries in football analytics. Really ever since. Every year they're getting deeper, bigger, better, and honestly, way too many. There's so many stats out there, it makes your head spin. What started with new stats like completion probability and expected rushing yards evolved into a library of advanced statistics, and these span from defensive coverages to fourth down decisions and even the return game. And now that the return game has changed, it's gone off into another wild direction. In the 2023 offseason, though, it was really no different. They were inspired by several submissions from the 2023 Big Data Bowl. It was a group that developed a series of machine learning models that, one, identify blockers and pass rushers on every pass play, and two, quantifies the evolving dynamics of pressure, and three, detects all individual blocker-rusher matchups. Appreciate you, Michael Garrity says, smash that like button, everyone. Thank you. Appreciate you, Michael. And here's your super shout out to both you guys, Van Halen and Garrity. Big round of applause to not only members of the channel, but longtime listeners and watchers of the channel. Appreciate you guys. So again, let me read that again. What this data bowl, what they compiled here is identifying the blockers and the pass rushers on every pass play, and then quantifying the evolution of dynamics of pressure, and then detecting all the individual blocker-rusher matchups. So blocker and rusher identification is using a graphic neural network model that we can accurately, I'm reading this verbatim, discern which players are blocking versus running a route, and which defenders are pursuing the quarterback versus dropping into coverage in real time. So what does this mean? Who's doing it? Is it human eyes? Or is it an algorithm in a chip in a piece of software on a server somewhere? We're going to go with the latter because that's what it is. Next Gen Stats is a highly evolved AI system that is process learning. It is learning the nuances of the game. Each and every game that it watches, right? Or doesn't really watch, but it's there. And that's where I think some of the misconceptions of pressure and pressure stats start to happen. Or last year, for instance, Aiden Hutchinson was the most double teamed or triple teamed player out there, right? That really wasn't factual. When you watch the game, it wasn't Aiden Hutchinson that was the most double teamed or triple teamed. When you watch it and you see what happens, you know, these combo blocks or, you know, where they're shading to one side and Hutch is being picked up by a tight end or a running back that's getting chipped, right? If you're counting those as double teams and triple teams, it's not accurate. And I know we've talked about it a few times. If two offensive linemen engage a defender at the same time, that's a double team, right? If two offensive linemen engage a defender and then a third comes down from tight end, running back, whatever, right, and engages and stays, you know, behind him or to the adjacent to him, you got a triple team. Very, very infrequent do you ever see triple teams in the NFL. I mean, like, got to be less than 0.5% It just doesn't happen. There's not enough bodies on the field to be able to triple team. I mean, imagine if you had a triple team going on. That means that two other guys are wide open at a minimum. And that quarterback should be on the ground in seconds. So it's highly unlikely that you have a lot of triple teams. Double teams, sure, you have those. We have plenty of those. The second identifier is pressure probability. Now, this model gauges in tenths of a second the likelihood of each defender creating a pressure. The definition of which you can find below, we'll read it. The output of the random forest model offers a multitude of measures to assess each pass rusher's performance on every play. In addition to a team composite pressure probability model, you guys are already lost. I know, I've already lost you during the show this morning because there's all of these evolved words, right, that they're trying to use. This is all based on probability. All of these metrics and analytics that they're kicking out is not the eye test. The eye test is what matters. Forget AI. The minute they put AI into football, things started to get really lost in the sauce. You just got to watch the game, right? The tape never lies. Just like numbers never lie. The tape never lies. And so that's why when we watch the tape, according, to DLR this morning wants to know if I'm still disappointed. I'm not ever disappointed in Hutch's performance. The dude is an absolute animal. The only thing that I get caught up on is the number of pressures and how it's not transitioning to a sack. And I look at the efficiency rate. When you have 11 pressures in one sack, you're less than 10% efficient. Now, how many pass rush plays was Aiden in during the weekend, right? During the first game? I think that's a bigger question to answer. And I had that up here. Let me get in here. So Aiden had 11 total pressures and 1 sack, 4 hits, 6 hurries. So if you add the 6 hurries, the 4 hits and the 1 sack, that equals 11. Okay, so there's your 11 pressures. Now, he had 20% missed tackle rate. I mean, that's a way too high of a number. So the question is this: how many different pass rush plays was he in on? And that's the number that I have to find. Eric, would you mind trying to look that up in PFF real quick?
What's that?
Or Pro Football Reference of how many pass rush plays, how many pass rush snaps Aiden was in? Never mind, I got it right here. 46. So he had 46 pass rush play snaps, right? Or 46 pass rush snaps, of which he generated 11 pressures and 1 sack. So if I were to take 11 and divide it by 46, he was efficient 23.9% of the time, getting a pressure on a pass rush. That is a really good pressure rate. But then if I look at the sack numbers, 1 divided by 46, he's less than 2% efficient on converting a sack. If I go by pressure to sack, 1 divided by 11, he was 9.09% efficient on pressure related to sack numbers. So those are the numbers that I look at. Those are like the three identifiers that I look at, and then I watch the game. How do you identify what a pressure is? So there's this whole anatomy of pressure probability, right? Which is telling you, this should happen on this play, or, if they're in this alignment, it should happen on this play, or, this is how much pressure should happen, but it's not accurate at all. It's just a guess. And I know it's a highly evolved machine and a learning process, but if we just watch the game, I think it tells you a better outcome, right? So here's your definitions. Pressure is defined as a pass rush play. So it has to be a pass rush play, number one, where the rusher affects the quarterback before the pass is thrown. Okay, let's break that down for a second. You have to affect the quarterback. Now, there's been a few different models that have come out that say just engaging an offensive lineman and pushing him back a yard into the pocket is affecting the quarterback, and that counts as a pressure. My question to you is, how did you really affect the quarterback? If you just pushed a guard or a center or a tackle 1 yard into the pocket, how are you really affecting the quarterback if the quarterback still has all that space? All he has to do is maybe move back an extra foot, get back to his back foot, and launch the ball. Now, if the quarterback is getting the ball out in less than 5 or 6 seconds, like Stafford was this weekend, how are you really affecting the quarterback? Because that's how you evade pressure. Short steps, right? Short shuffle drop, you get to your back foot, you launch the ball. Jared Goff is one of the better ones to do it in the league. Last season, he was getting the ball out in under 2.9 seconds. At times, it was faster. So how do you beat pressure? And that's why I'm on the fence with pressure, because you can beat pressure. You just get the ball out quick. You run quick routes, not necessarily timing routes, but quick routes, quick ins, quick outs, quick, comebacks, a lot of slot stuff, a lot of flat plays, drag routes over the middle. Whatever. There's a lot of ways you can beat it. Pressure can also get you in trouble when you start handing the ball off. You have a little delayed counter, little misdirection, whatever, and now you're squeezing through the defensive line for big plays because everyone's coming in and no one's in the middle of the defense, which usually happened to the Lions last year. So pressure is defined as affecting the quarterback, number one. Now, a pass rush becomes a pressure when the pressure probability exceeds 75%. So again, it's a model based on percentages, not the eye test. This includes sacks, quarterback hits, quarterback hurries, and other plays where the pass rusher just comes into close proximity with the quarterback. It will also include plays where the pass rusher has a free path to the quarterback or is winning the matchup with the blocker. That's it. So now that you understand what pressure is, he didn't even get his hands on the quarterback, right? You're just winning the rep with a blocker. You're in close proximity. What's close proximity? That's got to be a stat here that is arguable, right? I might think that close is your hand can touch the quarterback. That's close to me. This model might say close as a yard. It might be 13 and a half inches. Who knows? Well, what is close? That only counts in what? Horseshoes and hand grenades, right? That's close. That's what close is. So again, we're not talking Aiden this morning. I'm talking pressure, right? Just pressure. Because the pressure is mounting, I promise you, for this defensive line to perform. Pressure rate is the total number of pressures divided by the number of pass rush snaps. And Aiden Hutchinson had 23.9% pass rush pressure rate, which is really good. Like that, if he can maintain that all season, that'd be great. Time to pressure is the elapsed time from snap to the first moment of pressure. The average pressure occurs, get this, 2.9 seconds. How fast was Stafford getting the ball out this weekend?
2.1 or 2.6.
It's like 2.5, 2.6.
Yeah.
Right? So if your pressure average is 2.9, your average sack is over 3 seconds. How is pressure helping? To me, the sack is what matters, right? if you're affecting the quarterback where he has to actually leave the pocket, he has to step up through the offensive line, right? He has to run towards the boundaries. That's where pressure really helps, right? If you're actually getting the quarterback off his rhythm, but if you're just moving these guys back and you're entering the pocket, you're winning your matchup. You guys see it time and time again. Jared Goff will stand right in there and he will deliver that ball for 1,515 yards or whatever it was to Amon-Ra St. Brown last year, standing real close to everybody and taking a bump or a hit or, what you would call it a hurry when they're that close. There's like less than a foot circle around Jared Goff at times when he's throwing the ball. So here's another question. When you push your blocker, I wish I had the board and everything set up this morning. If you push your blocker around the quarterback, the outside, which Aiden does quite a bit, right? The outside of the quarterback pocket, and you come from the backside, now you've given a huge window for this quarterback to either throw the ball or run through or step up into and then deliver the ball somewhere, right? To me, that's not good. That's not good to open that big hole up. You want direct pressure, right? You want to push direct at the quarterback. And that's what interior pressure with DJ Reader is going to give us. And you're going to see where Aiden's game changes immensely when DJ Reader is able to push the center of that offensive line back into the lap of the quarterback. Aiden's not going to have to take such a wide angle, at the quarterback. He's going to be able to go more direct. And so will Davenport. He'll be able to go more direct. Now, there's specific plays where you're obviously trying to get around the side a little bit. You're trying to force and corral the quarterback to go in. And that's where Aiden was successful on that sack at the end of the regulation. Quick pressures. To me, this is the most important one. This is the one that I will, hands down, give Aiden or anybody else their flowers on every quick pressure. Because a quick pressure is defined as a pressure that occurs within the first 2.5 seconds of a play. If we had nothing but quick pressures against Matthew Stafford this weekend, we would have had way more success at eliminating what Cooper Kupp was able to do. Stafford wouldn't have thrown for 300 plus yards, but we didn't have quick pressure. I saw something on Twitter the other day that I responded to, and they shown a play. I think the question was asked, for those of you that think pressures don't matter or whatever, what do you think about this play? And it was where I believe Aiden got to Stafford, but that was after 2.9 seconds. I literally counted up the seconds and watched the clock. So it wasn't a quick pressure. That gave plenty of time for Stafford to do whatever he wanted to do with the ball. 3 seconds in the NFL is eternity. Like, it really is. 4 seconds, you're putting out lawn chairs and cracking a Corona at that point. That's how much time you have. 4.5 seconds, you're popping your umbrella. By 5 seconds, you got sunscreen on. So quick pressures is where it's at in this game. Pressure time is the total duration that a pass rusher spends with a pressure probability over 75% threshold. Again, I'm not even going to go down that rabbit hole with the whole probability. I'll leave that for the bigger stat nerds than me. They want to go down that rabbit hole because this whole probability stuff, to me, it's not football. Like, it's great for analytics. Some good talking points, in my opinion, are there. But probability is, it's a funny word in football. Every play you would say that you have the probability to throw a touchdown. You have the probability of breaking a 40-yard run. You have the probability of getting a sack. You could throw all that crap out the window, man. Just watch the game. Just watch the tape. Probabilities are great, but I would say this weekend the Lions have a probability of getting 10 sacks. That means absolutely nothing, especially when it doesn't happen on Sunday. So I want to stick to the facts here, which is what is pressure? Pressure rate, which obviously that's a factual thing here, because that's a direct math problem, right? Time to pressure or quick pressure. I think quick pressure is very, very, very important. In the average pressure time. So that's a time thing. Snap, to by the time that the quarterback is down or gets rid of the ball, they've done a lot of math calculations here to figure out what the average time is. So I don't want people to get lost in, at least for me, I don't want to see people get lost in all of these numbers. If you really haven't studied what they mean and what next gen stats is doing, I think that a lot of people take this stuff and they look at it and they're like, holy cow, like that's really great. Well, he's double teamed all the time. He could be better. Or he's triple teamed. He could be better. You know, if he wasn't held all the time, he could be better. Well, you got to remember that this is AI chips and shoulder pads and footballs and helmets that is throwing these probabilities out there in these analytics. That's what next gen stats is. It's mostly AI driven. Just watch the game. Just watch the tape. So DLR, here's my answer. I will never be disappointed in Aiden Hutchinson's play. The dude is an absolute animal. He puts his heart out every single snap. I just feel like there's some things that you know could be cleaned up, and they will be. It's game one. It's week one, right? We're way overhyped on all of this. There's just areas of his play that concern me and others. I'm not the only one. When he's, you know, way out of, you know, his containment zone or breaking containment. That's what I worry about, you know, or the spin move that kind of takes him out of the play at times. Not getting his hands up often enough, trying to bat a ball down. Those are the little nuances to the game that if he paid more attention to getting his hands up, I think that you would see way more good stats, you know, for Aiden, right? Probably another interception or two this season. The dude has hands. He's got great hands, and he's already put that on display a few times. But I just want to see the little things. Now that you're in season 3, right? This is the no excuse season for all players that are drafted, especially in the first round. This is when everything needs to start to come together. And I think Aiden has done an excellent job to this point of getting better. He's a captain, and he deserves to be a captain. He's a leader now on this team. I just want to see the little things tighten up a little bit. And then that is, you know, sticking to your coverage zone, your containment zone, you know, not breaking it down all the time. Now, I did see a couple of plays where he actually stood back, right? And he stayed in his containment zone. And then there's plays where he's so far outside that, you know, Stafford's able to hand the ball off or, you know, squeeze through that hole and go complete a pass that if he would have just stayed back a yard or two. And it's same thing for Davenport, for anybody. I mean, you could blame the right side of that defensive line all last season for doing a lot of the same things. But when you look at his numbers, I mean, 70 total snaps, 46 of them were pass rush. We were sending the guys often on Sunday night. So great defensive grade for him, you know, at 94. But again, I don't want to get lost in the sauce. What matters to me is a 20% missed tackle rate. That's big. Like that can't happen. You know, being who he is, that number needs to be, you know, one of the lower numbers in the league. It's week 1, so I'm not going to jump all up and down about it. I want to see that number get lower because last year was 24%, 24.3 or whatever it was. And that's a big number. A lot of missed tackles turns into big yards, turns into big plays, turns into broken plays that turn into big plays. The 11 total pressures, again, I'm not going to get lost on the pressure. I'm going to look at how many sacks he had. Quarterback hits. So that's another thing. What does a quarterback hit mean? What does that really mean?
Should mean you touched him.
Right. But when? After he threw the ball or before?
Oh, before. Doesn't count if it's after the ball's gone.
Well, here's the definition. A quarterback hit is when a defender hits the quarterback after or just as the quarterback releases the pass. Quarterback hit after does nothing. The only thing it does do is it bruises up the quarterback a little bit, right? It kind of wears them down, if you will. It makes them know that I was there. I was just almost there, you know, to get a sack or get my hands on the ball, deflect a pass, whatever. But the fact that a quarterback hit registered can come after the pass is released. I mean, it's got to be bang, bang, right? Otherwise, it's a late hit. That just doesn't make sense to me. And this is why I wanted to go over some of this stuff, because a quarterback hit being defined as or recorded after or as the quarterback releases the pass and a defender hits the quarterback such that the quarterback goes to the ground. That's the other thing. Quarterback has to go to the ground. So there's a finite detail here. It can't be a late hit. It's got to be bang, bang. But if that passes out and you hit the quarterback, hopefully you're not getting a flag. But the quarterback must go down as an action of the defender. Multiple defensive players can be credited with a hit on a given pass play. Davenport had 2. Onwuzurike had 2. Kyle Peko had 1. So we had quite a few, quarterback hits in the game getting to Matthew Stafford. Again, those are plays we want to see, right? We want to wear down the quarterback. The more often you're getting to the quarterback, you're hitting the quarterback, you're in his face, he's going to start getting off his rhythm because he knows he can feel it. He can feel that you're coming. And a guy like Stafford, he just knows to up the tempo a little bit more. He's going to shorten his backdrop, and he's going to get that ball out a little bit quicker. So that's what I pay attention to. I'm not, take me for, a grain of salt, if you will. I just pay attention to the stats, to me, that matter. And I watch the tape, and I look for the things that could be better, if you will. So we'll move on from pressure cooker. Hopefully, it was a little bit enlightening this morning of what a pressure really is. Now, I guess I lied. We're not going to get off pressure. Here's how pressure can be bad. Last season, we had the 27th ranked pass defense, right? If you're getting pressure, which means you're speeding up the quarterback to throw the ball, and your DBs can't stick already, that's bad. Because if you dial up pressure, you're dialing up the blitz, right? You're bringing it to the quarterback. He's now going to get the ball out that much quicker. Now, the hope is that your DBs are in place to make a play. But far often last season, they were not. And that's where pressure can hurt you, because that ball's coming out quicker. The DB's not in a place to make a play. And, man, we saw it all year. Dinking and dunking over the middle of our defense. Plays going for, 20, 30 yards, even 15 yards. It probably should have went for 3 or 4 yards. So that's where pressure can hurt you. This season, we're expecting a drastically different opportunity for this defense. If our DBs can play as well as they did this past weekend, which they did, I know the numbers don't show that. But if you watch the tape, Terry and Arnold was hip to hip with just about everybody. Carlton Davis was hip to hip with just about everybody. Outside of a couple of big plays, they played pretty well. And they're only going to get better. So throughout, the early part of this season, I do believe that we're going to see pressure allowing our DBs to have more interceptions or more opportunity to make a play on the ball, whether it's a defended pass, an interception, a batted ball, something, because they're going to be in place to make a play. And that's the difference of bringing in good quality DBs. So if we would have just brought in another edge rusher and stuck with the same DBs, we'd just be in more trouble. You would see the same thing that we saw last year, which is, players just going for ungodly, amounts of yards in the pass game, like Justin Jefferson or CeeDee Lamb. Hopefully not Mike Evans this weekend, because he gashed us for $150 last year. So that's it. That's where pressure can hurt you, is if you're not tightened up on other areas of the defense. All right, now we'll move on. Anything you want to add to that?
Sure. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they have quite the parallel to Aiden Hutchinson, and his name is Yaya Diaby. And he was rated as the number 4 edge for quarterback pressure rate after week 1. And Aiden Hutchinson was rated number 9. Now, Aiden Hutchinson had 11 pressures and 1 sack, and Yaya had 5 pressures, no sacks. So I think I would rather have somebody out there for a whole bunch of plays with a lower percentage, but putting up higher numbers, than a guy that's not out there as much that puts up lower numbers. Hold
on here. Let me try to understand what you're saying. So Yaya had 5 pressures, no sacks.
Exactly.
But he had a higher PFF grade?
Yeah, like a higher pass rush percentage.
Well, yeah, so that's going to directly correlate to how many pass rush snaps you were out there for, and how many pass rush credits you're getting, right? So how many hurries or sacks or hits, how many of those are you getting? So that would make sense. If he was only out there for 20 pass rush plays.
Yep. So his percentage was 2% higher at 27%.
Okay.
Aiden Hutchinson's at 25%, but he's got less than half the pressures.
Where's Aiden Hutchinson's at 25%?
That's what they have him as on here at number 9. It says Aiden Hutchinson, 25%, 11 pressures, and 1 sack.
So they're just flat out lying?
I guess.
Where's this coming from?
This is on the Bucs. Let's see. JoeBucksFans.com.
Okay.
And
so he rounded up a whole 1.1% because if you take 11 pressures and you divide it by 46 pass rush snaps, that's 23.9%.
Yeah, I don't know where they get the 25.
And so Yaya Diaby, how many pass rush snaps did he have? Do you know?
It doesn't say.
I want to. Now you got me intrigued here.
Yeah.
I want to see just how many snaps he had.
It's just my point was I would rather have more production through more snaps than some percentage. I don't care if a guy has 100% hit rate or pressure rate if he's only out there for 3 snaps. He gets 3 pressures. I'd rather have a guy out there for 47 plays and get 11 pressures.
Yeah, so those numbers that you're reading are not correct because it's not your fault. Diaby had 20 pass rush snaps on 5 total pressures, which is equal to 25%.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what you're saying here is the same thing that I was saying about James Houston. When I look at defensive pressure rate and sack rate and how effective you are, you have to look at efficiency rate. To me, that's the most important stat line. I think that's where you're going with this, Eric, is efficiency.
Well, see, this is what the article says. This is for the pressures are better than sacks crowd. The pressure people have something to celebrate. While Bucs edge rusher Yaya Diaby may not have gotten a sack Sunday, he hounded Commanders rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels. Per the 33rd team, Diaby had 4 quarterback pressures and the 4th best pressure rate in the NFL after week 1 at 27.8%. The Bucs will need all of that and more from Diaby on Sunday in Detroit as quarterback Jared Goff is dangerous without a defender in his face.
Yeah, so, and he's also dangerous with a defender in his face. He was one of the best to do it last year. So here's my retort, if you will. When I look at efficiency, which to me is more important than anything, you put James Houston out there in his first season. Now, I know it's been a minute since we've seen him do anything, but the guy goes in 7 games, records 8.5 sacks. His efficiency rate was insane. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but we're talking, 5 snaps, 2 sacks. So that was, I think, the first game against the Bills. He had 5 snaps and 2 sacks.
40%.
40% sack rate. That's insanity. But then we're like, this ain't going to continue. The next week, same thing. Guy had like 8 snaps and another sack and a half or whatever it was in the very next week.
Yep.
His efficiency rate was bonkers. And again, it followed him throughout the whole first season, in 2022. The James Houston was way more efficient at getting to the quarterback. And here's the problem, if you will, with that. Aiden's playing, 3-4 downs. James is playing 1.5 downs. It seems like he's in there on, 3rd downs. And that's about it. He might have been in there on some 2nd downs, depending on what, AG was calling or dialing up for that play. But efficiency matters the most to me. I don't even know how to put another analogy into this other than you have to be extremely efficient in golf, right? You only get so many shots on a hole to be able to place a good score. You can't just go out there and drive the ball over and over and over and over again and just take all these mulligans to finally get the shot that you want, because now you've got 6 balls that you've hit. You've got, 6 before you even get to the green. That's kind of my analogy. I don't know how it works. It kind of works. You know,
the media can listen to my thing. The media can take the exact same numbers, okay,
and spin it.
And listen, so the Detroit Lions can say, "Oh, Hutch had a great game." All the media in Detroit says, "Oh, Hutch had a great game," and then the Tampa Bay Bucs guys can go, "Oh, Hutch had a crappy game. Look at this. This is the numbers." With the exact same numbers, they can take and make it either way they want it to be.
I think it's just the way that you look at it too. I mean, and what's more important to you, and what do the numbers really mean? So back to Yaya. He was in for 20 pass rush snaps. He had 5 total pressures, no sacks, no hits, but 5 hurries. So that just means he was in the proximity of the quarterback.
Yep.
Proximity. That's it. Here's the number that really matters, though. 100% missed tackle rate. Looks like a giant number. 1 missed tackle is all he had.
Yeah.
So that's huge, right? He had an opportunity at getting a tackle and he missed it. No stops. The guy was, relatively meaningless in the game.
Yeah. And they have this big story on him, that he's the number 4 quarterback pressure rate after week 1.
Yeah. So I want to make sure I remind you guys one more time. I am a Lion loyal member through and through. I support my guys, all of them. I'm also very realistic. I also dive into the stats quite a bit to kind of bring you the information that nobody else talks about. My biggest thing here is what? Truth, honesty, and transparency through the numbers. And throughout the season, you're going to have some shows that you're not going to like. You're going to have some stances and some, some things that I say that you're not going to like. But if I'm giving you the facts and I'm trying to explain what some of these things really mean, yes, we could pump media all day that is just full of blue Kool-Aid, right? And you're going to eat it up. You're going to love it. Everyone's going to be pumped up and ready to go. And we do that, from time to time, right? Because we're Lions fans through and through. But I do want to have the conversations that maybe aren't as easy to have. And that's because I want to make sure that I get you the best information possible. Maybe open up your eyes to a new vision throughout the season at some point where you see things a little bit differently and make your own decision on how you feel about it. The one thing that I can tell you is go spend the $14.99 a month or $100 a year and get NFL Plus. It gives you access now to the NFL Pro site where you get a lot more tape, a lot more individuality of things that you can look at. And it kind of gives you everything that you really need to know from who's out there, who's on the field, the play results. And of course, you can just watch it over and over and over and over again. And you can look at every single player and what they're doing and how they're helping. So pressure cooker segment is over, but I'm sure we will revisit this, weekly. And how did the pressures help? How did they hurt? And look, I can see that there's going to be some games this year that it may hurt us. Depending on what they have for receivers, who the quarterback is, how efficient that quarterback is, and getting the ball out. Stafford's one of the best to do it. He's going to be one of the most difficult quarterbacks that we face until this Sunday. And I truly mean that. Baker Mayfield is going to give us some trouble, and he's going to give us some trouble because he's got wheels. He can move. He can move within the pocket. He can escape the pocket, and he's far more dangerous when he escapes the pocket than when he's in the middle of it. So the Lions are going to have to figure out a way to convert on all these pressures this weekend. We have to convert. As long as they can get this efficiency, rate a little bit higher versus a quarterback, in my opinion, Baker is underwhelming to so many people. Not to me.
Shouldn't be.
Not to me. I see a quarterback that could dice us up if he really wanted to. We still have a pretty young DB room. And we've got Carlton Davis, who used to be a Tampa Bay Buc, which I think is going to help us to a degree. So let's move on to the next topic here.
Yeah. How the Browns ever let Baker Mayfield go is beyond me. The guy's a baller. He's got grit.
No, the Browns are, they're a trash heap.
Oh my God.
The Browns are what we were. I guess I shouldn't say that because, we are synonymous with the Browns. We are not too far removed, you know, from being neck and neck with the Browns. It's just we finally had a season. So
yeah, oh God, yeah, but it started at the top and all the way down. They need to do the same thing. They need to just tear it all down and start over again.
Yeah, they need to get rid of Deshaun Watson in a hurry. Like they just need to put him out to pasture.
You see, there's another lawsuit against him yesterday.
Yeah, I heard that last night on the Fantasy Football Tonight.
They're saying that they can possibly nix his contract because of it or something.
I don't know. I mean, you know, some of that stuff I feel like it just gets drummed up because they're trying to find an out. I hate to go down conspiracy road or tinfoil city or whatever you want to call it, but I feel like some of that stuff is just, you know, they're looking for something, you know, unlike where like the Lions had the issue with Cam Sutton. That was a bit different, you know, like there was a reason why. And it made perfect sense. Some of this other stuff, like this is all old stuff. So if it's old, I don't know how it's going to hurt them. If it's new, like a new situation, like something that happened within the last year or so, yeah, that could hurt them. But if it's an old claim, I don't know how that's going to hurt them.
Yeah, I think it's something new.
Oh, I hope not. I mean, that's just terrible for him and for the league. But
some people just don't change their ways.
I guess not. You got to learn from your mistakes at some point. Lord knows I'm learning from mine every day. Here we go. Next up, let's talk about Kyle Peko, saved and signed.
Yeah.
So Kyle Peko, a gentleman that I figured was going to make the roster in week 1. He certainly did. And he was a big help to the Detroit Lions in week 1. Now, yes, his stats were not crazy. Where did my stats go?
The first play I watched of that guy, he was right in the backfield on a run play. And he was right there. I mean,
he's a journeyman. He's been in the league for more than 6 seasons now. I think this is his 7th season. He was at the bottom of the list as far as defense grade. He was a 54, right? Run defense grade 55. But his tackling, 67.6. I mean, he was one of the better tacklers on the team, about midway, you know, ranked number 10 for the Lions. But he did get a pressure. He did get a hit, and he did provide a tackle, 0% missed tackle rate. It was game 1, but he was only in for about half the snaps. So we'll see his trajectory rise a little bit week by week. Now, I know there's a differing of opinion on why the Lions have signed Kyle Peko. Now, the veteran defensive tackle was signed by the Lions or to the Lions roster from the team's practice squad. So he was elevated this past weekend, and then he would have been relegated to go back down to the practice squad and had to have been elevated again this week. The Lions went ahead and signed him ahead of Wednesday's practice. Now, Peko replaces Chris Smith on the roster. Smith was waived earlier this week and is now back on the Lions practice squad. So it's a lateral move here. Peko played in 37 snaps in our week 1 win over the Rams. He recorded 1 tackle as a practice squad promotion. I don't believe Peko is a practice squad guy. I really don't. Even when Broderick Martin makes his way back and DJ Reader, you know, finally enters, the game this weekend, I think that Peko is going to stick around more often than not. Now, there's been some talk that this was a cap-saving move, that by not having him on the 53-man roster in week 1, that now his salary is not guaranteed, I guess, for the rest of the season. So the move to swap Peko and Smith in week 2, according to this, other articles, said that it was almost certainly a salary cap maneuver designed to keep Peko's veteran contract from being fully guaranteed. All vested vets who are on a week 1 active 53-man roster have their deals secured by waiting a week. It saves the Lions long-term money. So let's do this exercise. Let's look at his contract. Do the numbers make sense? Well, do you really think the Lions are trying to save $1 million? That's the question.
Really?
$1 million. Do we really think that the Lions are trying to save $1 million here in a fully guaranteed contract? According to Over the Cap. What's that?
They probably give them that $1 million anyway, because these guys take care of their own, right? And they had to have told them, hey, we're cutting you. We're going to put you on the practice squad. We're going to bring you up for a week, and then we're going to bring you back down, and we're going to re-sign you after week 1. they knew what they were doing before week 1 even happened.
Yeah. So, I mean, according to a couple of different sites here, right? Over the Cap and Spotrac, his base salary would have been $1.21 million this year with a cap hit of $930K. And then the other site says that he had a base salary rate around $350K on the season. These numbers are not alarming to me. Like, I don't think that this is a salary cap move. He's getting a vet minimum.
Yeah.
Why would we be trying to save $1 million and lose a potential player? That just doesn't make sense to me. I think that he's getting rewarded for the fact that he's been consistent throughout training camp. We need him. He's a great depth piece, and he showed up on Sunday, and he had a pretty good game. So even though the stat line doesn't blow up, for Peko in week 1, he does the dirty work too. And that's where I'm going to stress, like I did in the pressure cooker segment, the eye test. Just watch the tape after the game. Take an extra hour if you have it, and just go and look at some of the defensive plays or whatever you want to key in on for the week, and see why some of these contrarian articles are just don't make sense to me. I think Peko is well deserved to be on this roster. I thought he was well deserved to be on this roster from the jump, but he found his way back on it, and that's all that matters. So Kyle Peko is with us now for at least this week until we get Broderick Martin back in probably week 6. We'll see what happens. We'll see. Tracy says Watson's situation is new evidence that just came up, and that guy just can't get out of his own way, can he?
No.
That's terrible.
That's when you just got to cut ties and start over fresh with whoever you.
Bill Collier, appreciate your comment, man. He says, I like your content. I say most of the same things most of the time. You back up my thoughts with info and insights. Much appreciated. Well, you're much appreciated, Bill, because that's what we try to do here. Truth, transparency, and honesty. Yes, we have a lot of opinions. And we know what opinions mean or matter to a lot of people out there. Everybody has them. And that's okay. I mean, it's opinion season. And that's why I try to do it with a little bit of facts, to try to help us frame our mind around what's really going on. At the end of the day, I'm blue through and through, man. I love every single one of the players on this team, support every single one of these players. Why wouldn't I? I'm not a Saturday guy on Sunday. I forget about Saturdays the minute these guys sign a contract. It's hard to do. Very, very hard to. I will tell you, it took me a while to be able to get there, but that's just who I am. I'm not gonna blow smoke. Next up, let's talk about Carlton Davis a little bit. So he's running into his old team. So Carlton Davis versus his old team. Eric, what is your quick insights here on? Is this going to help or hurt the Lions? Is Davis going to have a good game or a bad game?
Listen, I think it's going to help. Whether he has a great game or not, that's not the biggest deal. The biggest deal is whether we come out of this game with a W or we come out of this game with an L. And we want to come out with a W. And I don't care how we do it. I don't care if Hutch gets an interception. I don't care if Carlton Davis gets an interception. I don't care who gets sacks. I don't care if we get 0 sacks. If we get 0 sacks, 0 pressure, 0 interceptions, and we win the game, I'm happy either way. Would I like to see a great overall game and see us get better? Yes. But in the end, I'll take whatever it takes to get the W. Carlton Davis, I think, is going to have a little info on how they run things, especially on their offense, because he had to go against that offense every day in practice. He's going to know the little things about Baker Mayfield that we're just not going to know. He knows him from playing with him for a full season. Offense versus defense 3 times a week. He's going to know a lot. And they're going to have different verbiage, of course. Every team changes all their verbiage every year, so that way players that played for them the year before don't know exactly what they're talking about. Just like Jonah Jackson didn't know all of our calls this weekend. So they're going to change things up. And Carlton Davis, he had a little chest injury in the game the other day. He fell on the ball, he said, and hurt his chest, but he was a full participant in practice yesterday. So I'm taking it that he's a little sore, but he practiced full practice, so he's good to go for this weekend. Let's hope that he has an amazing game and that he picks off Baker twice. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah, that would be crazy. I'm conflicted here. Before I forget, I just put something in the chat. If you guys are interested, we've got a ticket available for this Sunday. It's a donate to the Rock Down Cancer Foundation type of a ticket. If you're interested, reach out to me, 313-312-0348. Text the show phone, call it, whatever after the show. Of course, you can email mailbag@rockdown.com. And you just donate to buy me a coffee, select the Rock Down Cancer Foundation, and you'll be able to get your ticket. So it is available. Carlton Davis. Do what?
Is your dad coming this weekend?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. Carlton Davis on Wednesday, he confirmed that he didn't ask to be traded and was shocked when he was traded. And the general manager, Jason Licht, informed him of the deal. So obviously Carlton was probably not happy. You can imagine now he's probably thinking, wow, I'm going to the Lions. You know, they're a contender. They had a great season, but it's not where I want to be. We'll never really know his true feelings, right? And I think now that he's been part of this city and part of this team, he's got to be pretty damn excited. Players understand it's business, right? It's not personal. They try not to make it personal, but it's always going to be personal for a player. I mean, your family's in Tampa. You've been there, almost your whole career, or I think he was there his whole career. But at least that's what they tell themselves, right? As a veteran, Davis is trying to treat this like any other game. But the reality is it's not like any other game. He spent 6 seasons with Tampa, which would have been his whole career. It's the only team that he knew as a professional before getting shipped off to Detroit. So he can't even predict how he might feel when he comes out of the tunnel for warmups and sees a bunch of his former teammates for the first time since the trade. A nice snippet there from Justin Rogers. Quote by Carlton Davis says, I haven't experienced it yet, so I guess we'll see what happens when it happens. For now, I'm not trying to feed into the emotions of it or the personal relationships or anything like that. At the end of the day, it's business. We've got a game, and somebody's got to win, and somebody's got to lose. It's my job to make sure we win. I love the attitude, man. Absolutely love the attitude. But my question is going to be this. The Mike Evans effect. How does this affect Carlton Davis? I think that we're kind of, we got a mixed bag right now because what we witnessed on this past Sunday was not great, but there's reasons for it, right? I mean, we could blame Stafford for getting the ball out too quick. We could blame Aaron Glenn for putting us into this zone concept more often than not that just was not working. But Carlton's now got a chest injury. Like I said, he was going to be on this injury report this week, and he is with a chest injury because he landed on the ball. How is that going to affect him in this game? He's probably bruised, right? He's probably really sore, but I'm not expecting him to be out of this game at all. Tampa happens to have 2 really good receivers, right? Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Evans is on a 10 consecutive season, 1,000 yards or more. Last season, he gashed the Lions for 147 yards and a touchdown during the playoff game. Now, Carlton Davis knows both of these receivers really well. He's been battling them on the practice field for 6 seasons. You would think that this is a plus factor for Davis, that he knows, the nuances, the weaknesses to Evans and Godwin, but you have to flip it on its face. They also know the weaknesses, what weaknesses there are for Davis. So they also know what he bites on. What move should I be putting on Davis? Because you better believe they've registered all that in their memory bank of how to play each DB a little bit different, how to have success. And going up against somebody for 6 seasons, you've got a big memory bank. So, quote here by Davis says, going up against Mike for 6 years has definitely made me a better cornerback. I always love going up against him and Chris. I'll forever respect those guys. Got a lot of respect for him. and forever thankful for him. Evans just got good body control. His mentality is different. The way he approaches the game, he's always been a big player, always been a playmaker, always been somebody you can depend on. I don't really want to talk too much about how good he is. This is going to be an interesting matchup. We're going to have Terry and Arnold out there, our rookie, going up against Godwin or Evans at times. And I guess we'll see how AG puts these guys, into a role this weekend. Are they going to travel again? Are they going to lock in on particular players when they're in the game? It'll be interesting to see, what we're doing different. It's week 2. It's going to be a different playbook. It's going to be a different style of defense that we're going to be running. Hopefully, we see a little bit more man, press man. But then again, going up against guys like this that, do have a big body control. I mean, Evans is a big dude. Godwin is especially fast, right? So it'll be interesting to see if we're going to be stuck into a zone scheme again, where they're just trying to limit, and keep things in front of them as much as possible. I want to see someone get bracketed. I want to see a safety roll down and we bracket, Evans all game, limit what he can do, and then you force Tyrion to perform against Godwin. And if we can do that and have success, I think that would be a great way to go into this game, into that style of a defense. So what do you think, Eric? I mean, do you think that either one of these guys is going to have a big game against us? And just how big, of a game are you expecting for Evans or Godwin?
That's scary. And that's the thing that I'm scared about this weekend. But I think Terrion and Rakestraw and Robertson and Carlton Davis, I think they're going to get it done. I think that they're going to do enough to limit them, maybe not on yards, but limit them on touchdowns, scoring drives, because in the end, I think the Lions are going to win. I think they're going to win by more than 7 this week, probably by 10 or 14 points. And it's going to be a tough battle, but I think our offense is going to be enough to offset whatever our defense gives up. I think we need to stay at that magic 20 or under number. Can we limit them? Man, I just don't know if we can limit them for yards yet. We just haven't gelled, and it's coming. It's going to take a little while for this new secondary to gel, and we got to get out of this damn zone and go man-to-man way more than we did in this last game. And we have to get our linebackers to do something over the middle and stop somebody for once, because everything over the middle was wide open during the last game, and I'm hoping they fix that for this game.
Yeah, linebacker coverage or in coverage, it's been an issue, and I think that zone really has been kind of the problem here. Someone's got to stay home. Now, Tampa's coming into this game pretty battered. They're backup, so their fourth wide receiver, Rakim Jarrett, he's on IR. But they still have Trey Palmer. They still have Cameron Johnson, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Jalen McMillan. Cade Otton did not have a good first week, I don't believe. Let me take a look at what he did last week. Yeah, he had 1 reception, 2 targets, 5 yards. I mean, just nothing happening there. And so that's where I would worry, about the linebackers, is who is the tight end that they're going to have to cover. And Cade Otton is not somebody that I'm, really that worried about. Payne Durham, the other tight end, he didn't do anything last week. So I'm really not so much worried about the tight ends and the linebacker coverage as I am which receiver is going to be sliding over the middle, and how are we going to handle that? Are they going to, is this Lions DB room, are they going to be able to communicate a little bit better with their handoffs? Because last weekend versus the Rams, we saw a few times where in traffic, the handoff just didn't work. Maybe where, Amik was supposed to pick somebody up, as they're coming across the field, wasn't as smooth, or where Brian Branch just wasn't himself, right? A couple missed tackles, wasn't tackling well this past week, and he can't have that same game this weekend. He's got to show up. And I understand he's in a different position this year, playing a little bit more in the safety spot, but he didn't look like the Brian Branch of last season. So is he still reeling a little bit from his injury? Is it still bothering him a little bit? I would hope not. It's been a minute, right? He's been through a lot of rehab. We need to see a different level from these guys. And I'm sure that they also understand that. You're going up against two of the better wide receivers, but it's going to be much like this last weekend. You had Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp that gave us fits. When Puka went out, you still had to deal with, Demarcus Robinson and Colby Parkinson started to light it up out of nowhere. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle it this weekend, but I think that they're going to have two, bigger receivers. Chris Godwin is 6'1". Mike Evans is 6'4", 6'5", 6'5", big guy. We just don't have anybody that matches up against him. And that's where I think that you have to double down on Mike Evans this weekend. You're going to have to give up something to somebody. But if you double down on Mike Evans on every play, roll the safety over, right? If you're going to match him up with Carlton or Terry, whoever, I would assume that Carlton's going to get the nod here on Mike. That's probably our best shot. Yes, you're going to give up some plays to Godwin. You're going to give up some plays to their third wide receiver, McMillan. But I don't think you have to worry about Cade Otton as much until they're in the red zone. So it'd be interesting to see what happens. This is not going to be an easy task. Baker can make some plays. He'll find the open receiver. This is where our defensive front needs to turn those pressures into sacks. We've got to get to the quarterback earlier, quicker. And maybe it's, what I said last week. Maybe you're not firing the ends as often. Park those ends. Maybe you only send one end and you roll a linebacker. Maybe James Houston finally gets an opportunity this weekend to show why his speed off the edge was so important in 2022. That was rare ability. And I think that if you insert him into the defense this weekend, you're probably going to have more success getting to Baker Mayfield. In that 20-6 win, last season, we got to Baker quite a bit. But this is also an offensive line that is no joke. Like this offensive line is pretty damn good. So let's roll into that. Bucs. Did I not put it up there on the roster? Well, whatever. I guess I didn't. We'll roll into the Bucs offensive line. It is no joke. How can the Lions have some success this weekend? Bruce MacArthur wants to know, do the Lions bring up a wide receiver? I think that, honestly, Bruce, I think you have to. I think after what we witnessed last week, which was an anomaly, right? Amon-Ra St. Brown and Laporta both not really having any success. That won't happen again or very often, that both of them are really held out. But the Rams kind of put the blueprint out there. So if other teams are adopting what the Rams did, then yes, I think you need to have a fourth asset in this wide receiver room that has a bigger body, right? A bigger opportunity to work on the X, the boundary, the red zone, which would be your Allen Robinson or your Tim Patrick. Tim Patrick is he's sneaky. He's real sneaky. And I like that about him. He's a finesse receiver. But he can also help you out on the boundary when you need somebody to body maybe a little bit of a smaller cornerback and go up and get the ball. Tim Patrick can do that. Both of them could do that. I mean, Allen Robinson is known to do that. So I think the answer is yes. Who is it going to be? I don't know. I just don't know right now. I haven't heard anything.
Yeah. Here's a little fact for you. Baker Mayfield has been voted the FedEx Player of the Week for Week 1 after a 289-yard, 4-touchdown performance.
I don't like it.
Our secondary better be ready to go. And we got to get home. I'm sure the Commanders just had zero pass rush, but was he getting the ball off super quick? I was trying to look up how fast Baker Mayfield was getting rid of the ball, but I couldn't find it. Found that he was the FedEx Air Player of the Week instead.
Well, if you look at the Commanders, I guess before we get into the offensive line, we'll touch on that for a little bit. Emmanuel Forbes, right? He was drafted, I think, last season, so he's still a young DB. Mike Sainristil, who they brought in this season, he's like 5'9", so obviously he didn't have, he didn't have any success when he was out there. And then Benjamin St. Juste, I don't even know who this dude is. No clue. Never heard of him.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't really have a bunch of big name, corners. He's got 4 years of experience, comes out of Minnesota. He's 6'3". So you would think that he would have, had some better success against the bigger receivers. But again, I don't know anything about this guy. So I really couldn't tell you outside of, Mike Sainristil and Emmanuel Forbes, who I've got a pretty good understanding of, why didn't they have the success that they should have, in week 1 against Baker. I mean, it's a pretty young DB room. We don't have a young DB room. I guess it's 50-50, right? Tyrion and Ennis are pretty young. They're rookies. But the rest of the guys on that squad are not young. Our safeties are not young. They're 3-4 year guys. It'd be interesting to see if Ifeatu can get up this week or not. I'm not sure where he's trending right now. But the Washington Commanders, they had Frankie Louvu, they had Bobby Wagner, Dante Fowler over the middle, Jonathan Allen, defensive tackle, Daron Payne. So what happened? That's a really stout front. And what happened? They were not able to really get the pressure. Let me look up Tampa Bay real quick. Let me look at their overall pressure stats for week 1 and sack stats, and their defense ranked 25th after week 1. So that's not great. Not great at all. Overall on defense, you had a total of 18 pressures on the day, 2 sacks, 16 quarterback hurries. But man, did they sure miss a lot of tackles. Wow. Yaya Diaby, of course, he missed his one. Christian Idzian, he's 33.3% missed tackle rate. Zion McCollum, 66.7% missed tackle rate. Levanta David, 33.3% missed tackle rate. KJ Britt, 37.5% missed tackle rate. And CJ Brewer, 33.3%. Now, a lot of those guys outside of Levanta David, and that's really it, were backups. So, Vita Vea, did he even play? He had nothing. He didn't do anything. He had 3 tackles on the day. Played in 35 total snaps. Jamel Dean, pretty good cornerback, right? Didn't do a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I flip this over to Washington, 18 total pressures, 3 hits, 14 hurries. A lot of missed tackles there too. So up front, you have Daron Payne. He had 5 total pressures, so he was the best defensive lineman, left end of the day. Frankie Louvu, really good will linebacker. He had an okay day. 2 pressures on the day, 4 tackles, 1 missed tackle. Dante Fowler had 3 total pressures, 3 hurries, 2 tackles. Missed 33.3%. Played in 20 snaps on the day. Bobby Wagner, who should be their star number 1, right, middle linebacker, only had 1 pressure. 6 tackles, 2 missed tackles, 18.2% missed tackle rate. Jonathan Allen, he had 3 total pressures, which was 1 hit, 2 hurries, 2 tackles. So they didn't have a great day. It's week 1, but we can't forget too, this is a pretty good defense. I expect that they're going to make some changes this week. But all right, let's go back to the offensive line. Now, the Rams' offensive line is no joke here. The Tampa Bay Bucs didn't really do anything drastic this offseason to improve their offense from a season ago. They tinkered a little bit on the offensive line, and some skill players were added for depth. That was really it for Tampa. So we're really kind of going up against the same team here. They retained their key players, right? Mike Evans, Baker, Tristan Wirfs. The one glaring point on the Bucs offense that is different is the change at offensive coordinator. So David Canales left, and Liam Cohen is now the OC. So you're going to have a different look for the Lions. It is a different offensive scheme that they're going to be running, and that's going to catch a lot of teams off guard, especially early. I'm sure that we've seen a vanilla playbook in week 1. It'll be a little bit of a different look here in week 2, and the Lions are just going to have to be able to adjust, which we know that is Aaron Glenn's Achilles heel. Like, he does not adjust on the fly, at least from what we see, right? We just see the same thing kind of going out play after play after play, and in the second half, it doesn't really seem to get any better. So he's going to have a really good game plan going up against Tristan Wirfs, Graham Barton, Cody Mock, Luke Godecki, and Ben Bredesen. The Buccaneers offensive line had a fairly good day in pass pro against Washington. I mean, that's a pretty good, solid defensive unit. But the offensive unit only allowed 7 pressures on 34 dropbacks that led to an 89.7 overall pass blocking efficiency rate, which was tied for 6th in week 1. Their rookie center, Graham Barton, had a mixed NFL debut, according to this article. He said that the Duke product did not allow a single sack or a quarterback hit in the win against Washington, but he only earned a 49.2 run blocking grade. So I think that's where I want to start. What can the Lions do this weekend to take advantage of a rookie center? Now, this past weekend, we saw where Jonah Jackson was inserted for the Rams offensive line. It should have been an opportunity. So what can the Lions do differently this weekend? They can take advantage of this where we thought that we were going to take advantage of Jonah. Now, Jonah, obviously not a rookie, right? Five years in the NFL now, 5th season. Definitely, fish out of water, but he held his own. I'd have to give it to Jonah. He held his own. He didn't have a bad day. But this is an opportunity where I would hope to see Aiden Hutchinson kind of moved around a little bit. But DJ Reader is going to be able to completely terrorize this kid. Assuming the DJ gets in, he's got to be licking his chops right now, going up against a rookie in Graham Barton. So I expect DJ Reader to be doubled in this game. I expect someone to slide over next to Barton, whether it's Cody Mock, which, he's only in his 2nd season, or if it's Ben Bredesen, someone's going to have to slide over. They might even run the tight end behind the line in motion to come and crack in on DJ Reader. It'll be interesting to see what they do. I'm expecting DJ hopefully to line up between the center and the right guard and pick that spot, to try to make some waves here early in the game. Eric, what's your thoughts here on how we can hopefully take advantage of an interior line pressure?
Well, I'm hoping that DJ Reader makes a big difference, because if you look at the game from week 1 here, the Cincinnati Bengals and the New England Patriots, the Cincinnati Bengals, their defense did not look the same. And the Patriots won that game. That was the biggest upset of the week. And that just shows me how big of a difference DJ Reader makes. You get those players that are top 5 at their position, and they're difference makers. They're the ones they're the 10%. They're the guys that you really can't replace, putting in second, third, even first stringers. They're the best of what they do. And it sounds like DJ Reader is the guy. He is one of those guys. He's got the it. I'm hoping so. I'm hoping all this hype isn't fake. I'm hoping it's real. I'm hoping he's healthy. So this is the first time this year I'm saying that word, hope. Okay. Because I don't have hope this year. I have expectations. I want to see what these guys can do. And I expect better this year. I expect this defense to be better this year. But they needed a little time. And I know it's going to take 3 or 4 weeks. So by the time we play Dallas, our defense needs to be crazy good compared to last year. Crazy good.
Yeah. So Trey says we're slacking on the likes. So we've got to get the ads installed this morning until we can get up to our 100 likes during the show this morning. Please smash that like button. Help this show get out to more Lions fans. We'd certainly appreciate it. You know, I'm terrible at asking, but that's what the moderators are good at. They definitely help us get to where we need to be every single day so we can grow this channel to each Lions fan out there. So, look, Wirfs earned a 83.6 PFF pass blocking grade. The highest mark on the Buccaneers and the 10th best mark in week 1. So Tristan is going to be a problem. And I guess that's my question for Aiden Hutchinson this weekend. How is he going to be able to go up against Tristan Wirfs here in week 2 when he kind of, I mean, yes, he got pressure in week 1, but that was a patchwork offensive line that the Rams had. And we still didn't have the success that I think many of us thought we would have. Now you're going up against an all-pro Tristan Wirfs. How is Aiden Hutchinson going to take his game to the next level? How is Aleem McNeil going to take? I mean, Aleem kind of was held out, of last weekend's game. Yes, he did the dirty work, but, he didn't light up the stat sheet either. Those two really need to make a big leap forward in this second week here. This is a much better offensive line unit than what we've seen this past weekend. So there's going to be some serious challenges here that I think that Aiden Hutchinson and Lee McNeil are really going to have to step forward. DJ Reader obviously is going to help big time to take away some of the pressure, so to speak, from Aiden and Aleem. But Davenport, assuming that Davenport is healthy, which he should be, the news is he should be playing this weekend. He's got the bum ankle or something going on. Davenport should have a big game. He really should. Depending on where they're going to line up Aiden and Davenport this weekend, are they going to be flopping them around from left to right, right to left? It'll be interesting to see what AG dials up. But I think that the mixture of both of them, and man, we've got to get James Houston up this weekend. We need the speed. So 80% completion rate for Baker Mayfield. That is, that's huge. It's completely asinine to have that kind of completion rate in week 1. But that tells you what kind of passer Baker is. I don't have the exact stat in front of me, but after watching a few of his highlights, Baker got that ball out quick. And I think that was kind of the mantra for week 1. It seemed like with a lot of these teams, Stafford did it, Baker did it. They were all getting the ball out pretty quick. And they're going to follow that same footprint this weekend. They're going to have to get the ball out quick because this is a defensive line that, not only did the Lions crack the top 3 in power ranks, but the defense is cracking the top 10 already. And if we can continue to get better, this defense still has a long way to go from cleaning up all of its mistakes and all of the little areas of concern that they noted in week 1. The sky is really the limit if everybody stays healthy. I think the biggest test for this offensive line is going to be how Aiden Hutchinson can affect the quarterback, and will Marcus Davenport be at full strength and improve upon his week 1 performance. Aiden kind of had a difficult game against the Rams. He was terrorizing at times, right? I mean, it was very evident. He had 11 pressures, right? But it wasn't until the final snap of regulation that he got home for a sack. And bringing Matthew Stafford down at the end of the 4th was a bit of palate cleansing, if you will. It kind of made Aiden kind of reset himself, like, whew, got it off my back, got one in week 1. That'll help him mentally, this week. But speaking of mentally, Aiden Hutchinson has been in a better spot this season. And he had this to say. I feel like that's what last year taught me a little bit. I feel like this year my mentality has become a little bit different, and I can deal with that kind of adversity better. Last year helped, and every year you grow as a player. I feel like my mental growth has helped me in that aspect. What he's talking about here is facing the frustration of the week one woes, right? And, having a difficult time against an offensive line that he shouldn't have. Like, definitely shouldn't have had any difficulty going up against that Rams offensive line. Now, again, could he face frustration for a different reason this week when he's set to go against Tristan Wirfs? Possibly. He's a 3-time Pro Bowler, right? He will present a far stiffer challenge for Aiden in this second week. He's not going up against a third-string offensive lineman like he was in week one. And again, that's why I pointed out the pressures this morning, because we need to see it convert. We need a higher conversion rate, especially when you have opportunities to go up against lower-tiered offensive linemen. You have to win those battles. It's not going to happen very often in this league that you are presented with a plate of, opportunity like that in week one. You have to take full advantage of that. So I expect nothing but better play out of Aiden here in week two. He also had this to say about Tristan Wirfs. I think he's just a freak of a human being. You just look at him. He's massive. He's got these huge arms, and he's going to try to punch you. I've been going against Wirf now since his Iowa days, so we've seen each other a lot. And it's always, again, playing against good competition is fun, because I know he's going to give me his best, and I'm going to give him my best, and we'll see where the cards fall. The fact that Aiden has history with this guy is helpful to Aiden, but it goes both ways. So it'd be interesting to see what happens this weekend. Absolutely. Ryan Van Valkenburg had a question. Do I really think that the Rams' blueprint on shutting the Lions receivers down was the blueprint, or did Ben Johnson have a very vanilla offense as much as possible in week one? I'm going to go both, Ryan. I think that we had a light scheme in, right? I think we had some plays in there that we were trying to take advantage of. But I also believe what the Rams did to us in week one is something that we really haven't seen a whole lot. And the reason why it backfired to a degree is nobody respected Jameson Williams in that game. Nobody was expecting Jameson Williams to have a big game. So when you bracket down Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then kind of the same thing over Sam Laporta, he always had over coverage around him. You bottle both of those guys up. They were forcing Jameson Williams to have a good game, and the kid arrived. So now in week two, I'm sure that Tampa's, keying in on that and saying, look, what the Rams did worked, but this is how it hurt them. Jameson went off. And if you let Jameson, have you in a little bit of a crack of daylight, he's going to burn you. So I think it is a blueprint, yes, to a degree. But now that you see where Jameson Williams has arrived a little bit, and it's just week one, I think that teams will probably think twice about bracketing Amon-Ra St. Brown, or they're just going to force J-Mo to have a big season. One of those two ways, I'm good with it. And matter of fact, Amon-Ra St. Brown, according to Jared Goff, really took the first week like a pro. And, the fact that he has that C on his chest, it means something. He didn't have a good first week, and the fact that he was limited in the amount of, opportunities that he was getting from Jared Goff didn't faze Amon-Ra St. Brown. If anything, he commended the fact that J-Mo was able to arrive and have a big game. And this is a team sport. And I'm trying to find, here it is. Trying to find this quote. Here we go. Wide receivers have a reputation for being divas, but quarterback Jared Goff said All-Pro Amon-Ra St. Brown handled his lack of catches in the opener like a pro. And this is what Goff had to say. He's fine, man. Goff said he's incredible. He's a captain on this team. He's a leader. He knows he's going to get his. It's just a matter of time. It just wasn't that game for a multitude of reasons. He's got the C on his chest for a reason. I know he still wants the ball, and of course he does. All of those receivers want the ball, but I think he understands when we are able to win a game and he doesn't get as involved as maybe he'd like, he's good with it. We are winning the game, and we're trying to win a Super Bowl this year. So that's big ups to Amon-Ra St. Brown, and it's exactly what we're expecting out of a player of his caliber that, yes, he deserves the ball every opportunity. You're paying him a bunch of money to go make plays. But at the same time, you're paying him a bunch of money to be a team player and to turn this around and give the other, players on this team an opportunity to shine. And he's good with it. At the end of the day, Amon-Ra just wants to hoist that Super Bowl trophy faster than anybody else that was selected ahead of him. So big shout out to Amon-Ra St. Brown for not being a diva, right? Not being a diva. Eric, what is your thoughts?
Dude, Amon-Ra St. Brown is the ultimate team guy. He does not care about stats whatsoever. He cares about W's and wins, just like every Lions fan should. The thing that has messed it up for everyone is fantasy football. Everybody took Amon-Ra in the first round or the second round of their NFL fantasy football draft, and they're upset because him and Sam Laporta didn't get anything this weekend. They got like 2 or 3 points apiece. I don't care about fantasy football. When it comes to my team winning, I just want a W, and I don't care how they get it. I don't care if it was David Montgomery running every single play all day long.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. I have him kicked, by the way. But anyway, stab. Yeah, poke the bear.
Yeah.
I noticed that Broski Bear woke up for a minute and then he disappeared. But anyway, Amon-Ra St. Brown, dude, ultimate team player, and he's gonna have his days. He's going to have an amazing game this weekend. You watch. Here it comes this week against the Bucs. They're not going to be able to contain him the way the Rams did. One reason is Ben Johnson is going to have a different game plan this week. Last week, the game plan was, hey, we're going to try to get it to St. Brown early, which they did. The first pass of the game went to St. Brown for 4 or 5 yards. And after that, he just wasn't open. So where did he have to go? He had to go to the other receivers. They weren't open. So he went to J-Mo. And J-Mo was wide open. So who are you going to throw the ball to? You're going to throw the ball to the wide open guy. If he's getting open, that's where the ball's going that day. Man, watch. I even bet it. I bet Amon-Ra to have the first touchdown of the game against Tampa Bay. Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to have a great game this week.
Well, if you remember last year, Amon-Ra or J-Mo was already having a good game against the Bucs. So they've seen what J-Mo could do. He caught that 45-yard touchdown in the end zone. Then we had that big block from Craig Reynolds in that game that freed up. I think that was Amon-Ra that freed up. So, I mean, they've seen it. They've seen J-Mo and what he can do. And now everyone has seen it, in the world, from week one here. But I think you're correct here, right? Ben Johnson's going to have a different set of schemes, for this game, to help this team maneuver around the bracketed coverage that we've seen in week one.
And the difference between last year and this year is last year, Goff and J-Mo were not on the same page.
Right.
Go back to that touchdown. J-Mo had to come back for that touchdown because Goff underthrew the ball.
He didn't underthrow it. He hit him right in the breadbasket.
Yeah.
Go watch the play. J-Mo just turned around and caught it in his stomach.
Yeah.
He didn't break stride.
Yeah, but it wasn't over the top. They weren't quite on the same page yet. I think that was J-Mo's first touchdown of the year last year.
It might have been, yeah.
And he only had 1 or 2 catches in that game. He's going to have more than 2 catches in this game.
I hope so. I mean, I hope we see a lot of what we saw last week. It's just we need to get everybody involved. It's going to be look, this home field advantage is no joke either. I mean, I think that, you've got a reeling Bucs team. They're kind of banged up on the road. Playing against the Lions again, where they, were kicked out of the playoffs last year. So there's a lot of things stacked up against the Bucs, but I just can't discredit their offensive line. Now, last season, in that playoff game, we kind of had our way with them. In the first game, we had our way with them. The first game, I apologize. I think it was like week 5-ish.
Yep.
We had our way with Tampa Bay. I think that was a 20-6 game. where we got after Baker. What did we get? Like 5 sacks in that game, I believe.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna have to look it up.
I found an interesting stat this morning too, and it was on that Bucs site again. Jared Goff lifetime in the NFL is 3-1 versus the Bucs. He's only lost to them was his very first game against the Bucs when he played for the Rams, and it was a really high scoring game.
Yeah, was that his first year playing though on a real crappy team?
Yep.
Yeah. So in that game, Lions Bucs, the first go around, Goff put up 380 yards total, so 340 passing. We only had 40 rushing yards that game. It was a passing kind of a day.
That was when Gibbs went down and Montgomery was already hurt.
Yeah, we allowed 3 sacks on offense, and we only sacked Baker once. So I thought we had 5 sacks in that game. Was that the second game then? I know we were all over Baker in that game. All over him. How do we only have 1 sack? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Not sure.
Am I thinking of a different game? Let me go to the playoff game here. Playoff game. We had 2 sacks. 4 sacks. 4 sacks. So it was the playoff game. My apologies. We had 4 sacks on Baker in that game. And the Lions gave up 2 sacks. So look, we've got a really good offensive line. We were pretty banged up, in that second playoff game. We've got to keep Goff clean. I got to hurry up and get through these last few segments here. We talked about Peko. We talked about Carlton Davis. We talked about pressure. We talked about the Bucs O-line versus Hutch. Injury report. We'll get to that real quickly, and then I think I'm going to roll right into the keys of the game. Obviously, tonight, I'll be going over all of this again, but in much more detail with the Cannon Fire podcast. They're going to be coming on to talk about their team, the Tampa Bay Bucs, and I've got a whole line of questions for them that I've already shot off to them, and we'll see what they think is going to happen in this game. In injury report, DJ Reader, assuming he doesn't suffer any sort of a setback between now and Sunday, he's set to make his debut for the Detroit Lions after 10 months of rehab, after tearing his second quad last December. Now, on Wednesday, he shared some of what he had to go through to kind of reach this point, and I'll recap it here for you quickly. He says, it's a hell of a process, and at the beginning, you just never know if it's going to be the same. It sounds crazy, but you're in so much pain. You really just try to manage those pills to be able to go to sleep. It's really the only thing you get to sleep. It's really the only time you get to sleep is when you're on the pain medicine, because other than that, it's a lot. It's pretty painful injury. Then after about 2 weeks, that's really the toughest part, because then you want to move your leg. And at the beginning, you're kind of like, whatever, in and out of sleep for about a week and a half. And then about 2 weeks, you really want to move your leg, but you can't. So then it starts playing tricks on you where it's fine enough to move and you really don't have the strength every day to hold it straight. The first time you can actually make the pedal go around, he's talking about doing moving his leg during his rehab process. Anyway, he says the first time you can actually make the pedal go around is like the toughest part. Then after it kind of starts going together, but then you got to start loading weight, and it's even more tough. I see why a lot of guys don't really come back from it. That's stick that feather in your cap, right? Because this is the second time he's coming back from this injury. This is just one of those injuries. You're fighting that wall every day. In Reader's case, I've been through my fair share of injuries and surgeries. And yes, it's tough, but I could never imagine throwing that extra layer being a professional athlete on top of it. Not once, but twice, DJ Reader is coming back from this injury. And he said it himself. This is an injury that not many guys come back from. Not once, but twice. That's pretty, I think that speaks a lot of volumes of just who DJ Reader is. And what he provides to this team as far as toughness, right? He fits and checks every little box that Dan Campbell's looking for in these players. Someone that, obviously is going to, put it to the wall, like he said, every single day, and work his way back from one of the toughest injuries you can face, not just as a defensive lineman, but as an athlete. Ripping your quad is it's an insane injury. I watched a video on it and the surgery, and it's just, man, it's rough. I got a lot of respect for DJ Reader in the fact that he's coming back from this and how well he really looked in some of the practice videos last week. He looked really good, but now he's going to have to put it under pressure, and he's going to be, feeling a whole lot more adrenaline. It's going to be a different sort of a feeling in a game. He's going to be going up against 300-pound linemen and having to use that force, on that quad. And man, I just hope he's really ready. I hope that he doesn't do something to screw it up this week. I kept getting those Emmanuel Mosley feelings all over again, where I just said, man, just let this guy rest to week 6. There's no need to rush him in. I think we're going to be good for the first 4 weeks. Even if we finished, 3-1 or 2-2, I think that we would have been fine. I don't expect a ton of snaps for Reader. I really don't. Now, he's excited about where he's at. He's excited to get out there with the guys. Really excited about the crowd. He said in another statement, the crowd was amazing last week. The energy was great. So he's ready, right? I mean, he wants to play. I just hope they dial him back a little bit. But the plays that he's in, I'm expecting to see what this defensive line can really be here in 2024, which is going to be unstoppable by week 6. I think that this defensive line is going to be unstoppable. And this could be one of the best defenses the Lions have seen in my lifetime. And it could be one of the best in the league by the end of the season. Injury report continued here. The Lions were without a handful of players on Wednesday. Offensive tackle Penei Sewell suffered an ankle injury in the first half of the season opener, but he was able to play through it. Obviously, he was held out. He needs rest, right? They need to get him back to health for the weekend. Also not practicing, Marcus Davenport. He had a groin injury, but he also finished the game. So that's good news that he finished the game, right? He's obviously getting a little bit of rest and rehab this week. Kirby Joseph had a hamstring pop up on him. Hamstrings are difficult. No idea what's going on here. It'll be interesting to see what happens on Friday. But he also finished the game. Ifeatu Melifonwu, his ankle injury, and then receiver Jameson Williams also suffered an ankle injury. Put some tape on it, guys. Like, what's going on here? Wrap those ankles up. I've never not played without wrapped ankles. So obviously there's going to be a lot of tape used this weekend. I expect all of these guys to play right now. Ifeatu is the only one that I don't know. And Kirby with a hamstring, I mean, look, that can turn nasty quickly. I hope that it's not as bad as what it could be. But I expect all these guys to play this weekend. I expect limited amount of snaps for Reader, get him acclimated slowly over the next few weeks. And then by week 6, he's probably going to be full go, playing 75% of the snaps. I would assume by then, but I would expect a ramp up schedule for DJ Reader. Thoughts on injury report?
Yeah, I don't think anything serious. I don't like the Kirby Joseph one because we're already down Iffy as a safety. That'd be 2 safeties down, and then Lauren Strickland didn't practice all week last week with a thumb. He's a full practice this week. So the safety position has me a little bit worried because who do we have after that if those 2 guys can't go or those 3 guys can't go?
Well, I think I still think we're okay. It could just look a little bit different, in the backfield this week if Kirby can't go. But right now we have Lauren Strickland and Brian Branch. That's it.
Don't we have Brandon Joseph?
What's that?
Don't we have Brandon Joseph as well?
I'm sorry. Yeah, we do Brandon Joseph as well, but I think is he on the practice squad?
No, he made the team.
Why is he not showing up on the depth chart?
I don't know.
Let me go back to this other one.
Maybe they did practice squad. I don't know.
It's Brian Branch, Ifeatu Melifonwu. Here we go. Brian Branch, Ifeatu Melifonwu, Lauren Strickland, Kirby Joseph, Brandon Joseph. So You'd have Brandon Joseph sliding in probably for Kirby. Brian Branch obviously is going to start and stay where he's at. Lauren Strickland would obviously be elevated as safety depth. And you know what? That probably would happen anyway, just with Kirby Joseph's injury if he is able to go. The trick is Ifeatu Melifonwu even close? So keep close eye on Ifeatu Melifonwu this week. If he's close to getting in, that's great. But I still think you're going to see the Lions probably go deep in elevations this week for the safety position. In a pinch, I would say that you could probably slide Amik Robertson back if you really needed to. That or the Lions are just going to have to they're probably just going to have to remain in more of a nickel with more DBs on the field and just go single safety the majority of the game over top, which is fine too, because that's where I like to see them. But you still usually have two safeties on the field when you're in that look anyway. Maybe the Lions are looking. Maybe they're looking for someone to bring in. We'll have to pay close attention to that too. Keys of the game for Tampa Bay here. Where did I put it? 1 second. There we go. So the keys to the game are pretty simple. Jack Campbell's still pretty young in his career, and he's still struggling in coverage. I expect the Bucs to probably target Jack Campbell a little bit this weekend. So pay attention to that. Let's see how Jack elevates this weekend in coverage. In the run game, he's good. He's actually playing pretty well, but his coverage, man, it's just lacking right now. He's a physical tackler, right? He's got excellent speed, sideline to sideline kind of guy. He still has a lot of work to do in coverage. He just lacks the experience right now. At times it seems like, the fluidity as well as to be strong in this area of his game are just not there in his coverage ability. So he still has work to do, and I think that the Bucs are probably going to try to take advantage of that. This kind of makes him a weak link in the middle of the defense. I would expect an early dose of Rachaad White in this game, as well as Cade Otton, which I said earlier is probably not going to do a whole lot because he didn't in the first week. But with Jack Campbell not having the best coverage, they could utilize Cade Otton earlier, over the middle of this defense, which would expose Jack Campbell. Is he ready to step up? We need him to big time. Looking for a lot of crossing routes here. Trey Palmer, dude, is blazing fast. A lot of crossing routes over the middle. You may see where Mike Evans and Godwin aren't the one that's targeted the most. It could be Palmer in this game with his speed, man. If he catches it over the middle, he's not JMO speed, but you give him a little bit of daylight and he takes it a long way. So attack Jack, I guess, is probably what's going to happen early in this game, and a lot of crossers over the middle. Once again, that has been our weakest part of the defense. I'm hoping that we're more man up in this game, and we bracket down Evans to try to limit those big plays. Controlling the middle of the field, right, on defense. This is going to be a big one for the Bucs. The Lions have big time receiving threats, right? Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta. Now Jameson has arrived, but we can't forget about Khalif Raymond. We really can't. If Khalif gets an opportunity this weekend to sneak out over the middle, I expect Jared Goff to take full advantage of this bracketed situation that we saw against the Rams. If it happens again this weekend, I expect Khalif Raymond to have a bigger part in this game. So he is someone that I'm looking at to really step up. I do worry about his ball security, but I do like his ability as a pass catcher over the middle of the field. Levante David is more than likely going to be tasked with keeping Laporta in check, which if we run some doubles at the middle of the field here with Khalif Raymond following, or even Jahmyr Gibbs out of the backfield, look for, I'm expecting that the Lions are going to try to attack that. Even though it's a strength of the Tampa Bay Bucs defense, I think that we stack up well right there, and that'll help beat that bracketed coverage on Amon-Ra St. Brown. Winning the turnover battle obviously is the key to every game, right? The Lions dropped probably 3 interceptions last weekend. Baker Mayfield at times does not make the best decisions. And we've seen where the Lions have had good success against Baker in the last 2 games that we played. I expect more of the same this weekend. I am expecting, if Carlton Davis is healthy and he's feeling okay, I expect him to be very active in this game, getting his hands on the ball. But look for Amik Robertson to sneak one in. I think that Amik is going to get a lot of time this weekend in this game. He matches up well against the bigger receivers. I'm looking for Amik the Freak to pull one down and get an interception. And Brian Branch, he can't ever drop one again. That is not Brian Branch's mantra. He does not drop passes or interceptions, if you will. Man, the ball thrown right at him, you've got to pull that down. So I'd look for those two, Amik and Brian Branch, to be the ball hawks this weekend, especially if Kirby Joseph is kind of, still battling a little bit of a hammy here. That could slow him down, which would slow him on his break. So if he breaks for the ball, he might just be a little bit slower at release and not get there in time. Look for him to play a little bit more off coverage to maintain everything in front of him. He won't be pressing as much as he was this past weekend. Really loved Kirby Joseph's tape this weekend. Really loved how he blended in with the end zone too. Like that really worked to his advantage.
Camouflage.
That's right. The Predator, right?
Deceptive camouflage. And I saw, I listened to Jared Goff on 97.1, did his weekly interview, and he's like, yeah, I don't know so much as we blend into the end zone, but we blend into that wall back behind the end zone, though.
Yeah.
But the wall's never changed. I think that's the same as last year. I don't think
it's always been the same.
Yeah.
It's always been the same. Yeah. Overall, look, our Detroit Lions is a much more talented team. More experience, right? We're healthier right now. Even though we have a few injuries, we're still healthier than the Bucs are entering this game. It's not a good combo for Tampa Bay. They're on the road. They're coming into the most volatile fan base in the world. I mean, we are just on it from start to finish. We're on it. We have to get louder. Like, we barely broke 115. This was not playoff number 2, or reshuffle the playoffs from last year. Like, we were quiet compared to what we normally are. Great job on offense, staying quiet, but on defense, guys, we got to get loud. And I'm gonna give you the key right here. It is. Don't start getting loud until they get in the huddle or until they start walking up to the line, right? Who cares if you're loud when they're in the huddle? That really doesn't help. It's when they're at the line. So if you save your voice for that 5 to 10 seconds, you can get louder longer later. When they're in the huddle, you don't really have to get loud. You can start to, but once they start walking up to the line, that's when you got to ramp it up. With all that said, look, I think that this is a win, no matter what, for the Lions this weekend. I'll give my final prediction on score tonight, and then we'll recap some of this stuff tomorrow with more predictions around the league and the games of the week. And let's hope I can do better than 6-10. Now that I've seen week 1, I'm not panicking, right? Now that I've seen week 1 and who's doing what, I think we'll have better results this week for the picks. Eric, final 30 seconds to you.
Yeah, I got to go, but my prediction is 24-10, Detroit Lions. We take it. It's not even close. We start off. Amon-Ra St. Brown scores the first touchdown of the day, and it just keeps going from there. They get lucky and get one touchdown to Mike Evans. He's going to get one touchdown, and they'll have a field goal.
It's interesting call. So Wayne Rodgers, that was straight up calls, 6-10, straight up calls, no spread, no nothing. I just called who's going to win, who's going to lose. I don't do the money lines, or I don't do the spreads or any of that. Now, if I were to go back and look at what I picked versus the spread, probably was better. But anyway, you guys have a great morning ahead of you. I'm going to continue working, so we're ready for tonight with the Cannon Fire podcast back here at 7 p.m. I might start a little early, so pay attention to the time change if it does happen. And we'll see you guys back here tomorrow morning. Go on Pride. Go Detroit Lions. Take care. Have a great day.
Adam Schefter at ESPN says there's 275,000 people.
Well, that was some party in downtown Detroit. 775,000 people shattering the NFL draft attendance record.
This is the future. Evolution. This is the future. Evolution.